Hi there, this is Sam of Core Yoga, and today I'd like to offer you a yin based practice specifically designed for cyclists. I know in my own body I'm doing a lot more indoor riding, and I'm finding the intensity is a little harder because you're consistently moving. There's no kind of freewheeling on a turbo trainer. There also is probably maybe more sessions built into my week because of the situation that we're in at the moment. I wanted to offer the opportunity for riders to calm both the body and the nervous system. So this is designed as a post-ride flow. We'll do a little tiny bit of movement, but most of the poses are static holds. And the objective in those holds is that we maintain as much stillness as we possibly can. That we feel maybe discomfort, but not pain. So be careful of that. I know when I work with many cyclists and runners, in fact, any athletic driven people, that they find yin pretty hard because they're required to be still. But also there's that intention to push the body, just like we might push the body when we're in our sport. So try not to push through any of those zones. You want to stay within your range. So we're going to start nice and simply on all fours. So hands underneath shoulders, knees underneath hips, and we'll just take a few rounds of cat-cow. So remember, this is kind of designed to do just as we come off of the bike. And so it's really nice to move the spine in and out of the position it's been sat in for an elongated period of time. So if you think about it, when we drop the belly to the floor and we look up, that's counter to how we spend our time on the bike, like an angry cat. Inhale as you drop the belly towards the floor, and exhale as you push the belly up towards the sky and tuck the chin. So just a few more rounds of that. Just start to tune into your body and slow that heart rate down, slow that breath down. Good. And then come to all fours in stillness. Just look at the top of your mat or your space ahead of you. You're going to take your hands to the far corners of your mat or out on the diagonal away from you. You're going to keep your bum stacked on top of your knees and drop the chest towards the floor. Now this will look very different in varying body types. So if we get here and we're feeling, you know what, I really want to push my body to get to the floor, then I'd like you to bring a block, a cushion or a book underneath your forehead. If your body is able to soften towards the floor, then you can bring your forehead to the floor. Now bring the elbows down too. So again, you might need to elevate the floor a little bit to bring your elbows down. In yin, it's really important that we use props to allow the body to travel to its edge, and no more than its edge. And then during the time that we hold the pose, the body will sink deeper into the pose. So it will go beyond what felt like its edge right at the beginning, but it will be slow and it will be controlled. And it will be when the body is ready rather than when the mind is ready. So we're just working at softening through the heart space right now. We're allowing the breath to naturally flow in and out of the body, and as best you can, do that with your mouth closed. As a cyclist, you'll be used to breathing in and out of your mouth. As soon as our heart rate is elevated beyond aerobic capacity, we take the oxygen in through the mouth rather than the nose, which is fine for our sport, fine when we're training, but actually when we breathe through the nose, the body systems warm up the air before it reaches the lungs. When we breathe through the mouth, it doesn't go through that same process. So as good practice, it's good to teach the body not only to be able to breathe in and out of the mouth, but also the nose. And then notice now, we've been here for a fair few breaths. Notice where you're feeling tension in the body. And spend the next minute breathing into that tension and breathing out to see if you can release a little bit of that tension. So you're breathing and directing the breath to the space that's holding the tension. And as you exhale, you're softening and you're letting go. In yin, we take our time because the fascia, the connective tissue that surrounds the muscles, the organs, runs through the blood, through the skin, around in the inside of the muscles. All of that fascia within the body gets a little stuck when we have tension in the muscles. And it's our aim to allow that fascia to better glide over the top of the muscles. And so allowing the muscles to lengthen first, and then time for the fascia to lengthen and to unstick. So as you breathe in your next breath, bring the hands back to all fours, and then exhale, hold it here. So you've got two variations of the next pose. I really am liking the second variation at the moment, but you do the variation that feels right for your body. I see a lot of cyclists that really struggle to put their hips down onto their heels because we use our quads so much. These guys are really tight. So actually I don't have the range of motion to put my hips down to my heels. If that's you in your body, don't judge yourself for it. Just bring your hips on top of your knees, and we're going to go into this pose like this. Take the left hand a little further forward, guide the right hand underneath you, bring the head and the shoulder to a cushion, to a block, or to the floor. And then on the diagonal, the left hand reaches out in front of you and to the left. And then we stay here, we soften, we settle. If you have more range of motion in your hips, then take your knees nicely mat distance apart and bring the toe joints to meet. Do that same variation of the pose, but this time from a wide-legged child's pose. So whatever feels right in your body. And then from here, start off with the right ear towards the floor. So remember to bring the floor closer to you if your body doesn't reach the floor. And so we're accessing some space to begin with around the shoulders and creating some movement to the fascia from the shoulders to then therefore release some space down the chain. As we hold our body in a fixed position as we cycle, the fascia almost molds itself to that position. And then if we go sit at a desk for elongated periods of time, in the upper body and in the front of the hips, we're replicating that same position. So the fascia kind of is quite intelligent. It will remold itself. But of course, that means that when we come to a counter position, it feels pretty tight, constricted and uncomfortable. So we want to create some length where we're tight so that we can allow our body to return to a nice, healthy, stable, strong posture. So we're breathing into the back of the shoulders right now. And then if it feels comfortable, you can turn your head and bring your forehead to the floor,
or you can lift your chin and bring your chin to the floor. And that might just create a little bit more space across the top of the shoulders into those deltoids. Maybe accessing a little bit into tricep. Getting definitely into the back of the shoulders, into lats. Nice. And then as you inhale, bring the left hand back to the center, the right hand back underneath your shoulder. If you're in child's pose, bring your knees a little narrower. And then from here, take the hands to the top of the mat, tuck the toes, lift the hips. We're just going to take a short down dog, getting some space into the back of the legs. Bend the left knee and draw the right heel towards the floor. Nice. So downward facing dog, like an upside down V. But it doesn't mean that this right leg that I've got here has to be dead straight. So just straighten it as much as your body allows. I notice that when I bend one knee, I access more length in the back of my other leg. You might feel that too. Good. Relax the head, the neck. Give it a shake and a nod. And then from here, bring yourself back to downward facing dog. Close your eyes. Just notice if you feel anything, any differences from right to left right now. Just observe. And then we'll come back to the position we were just in, but we're going to do the other side. So we're either in melting heart with our left hand underneath, this time in the left ear to the mat, or we're in that wide-legged child's pose with our left hand underneath. So it's a bit like thread the needle. And I'm going to start with my left ear to the floor. And then I'm going to reach my right hand out on the diagonal. And allow myself to settle into the place. So right now, you might be feeling sensations in your skin. It might feel like it's your skin. The sensation might be a little bit of a burning or tingling sensation. And that's your fascia. That's what it feels like to stretch fascia. And that is really different to the sensation we get when we stretch muscle. And as we rest here, more and more that fascia is able to find a bit more space. And so physically, as active people, we tend to build a lot of strength in the muscles that we use. And with that strength comes tightness in the muscle. And particularly with a sport like cycling, where you have a repetitive movement pattern that draws on the same muscle again and again within a very quick space of time. And as we use that muscle repetitively and it gets constricted, the fascia within it and around it sticks to it. And that fascia and that muscle is joined to a bone somewhere along the chain. And constriction and tightness in both muscle and fascia will pull on that insertion or origin point of the bone. And it will cause you over time discomfort, maybe open you up to injury. Bring the forehead or the chin to the floor now if you feel like you can go a little deeper, and that will just access a deeper stretch across the front of the shoulders on the left side. And so over time, if we don't take moments to lengthen out the body more than just a stretch sequence as we get off the bike, then over time this can become an issue. And essentially we're in the sport because we love the sport. So if we're taken away from the sport for injury, then that's even more frustrating. And just notice those tingly sensations, those slightly burning sensations where you felt them right in the beginning, and notice if you feel them still now. Chances are they've dissipated now. That's because the fascia has accepted the stretch. It's created some more length. Slowly come back to the center. If you're in child's pose, bring the knees back underneath the hips. Lift the hips, and this time walk your hands towards your feet. So do whatever you need to come into a forward fold. And bend the knees as much as you need to and allow your hand to hang heavy. And then grab the elbows, one hand on each elbow. And we're just going to hang here. So if you have a low blood pressure and you get dizzy upside down, I've got a variation for you. I'm going to show it to you now whilst everyone else is staying there, standing. You're going to do a similar posture, but your legs are lengthened out in front of you and you're folding forward over your thighs. You might be folding forward this much. You might be touching your thighs. That does not matter. What matters is you're not really using muscle activation to get there. So the only difference is when we're in a standing forward fold is that we're using gravity in our favor to allow us to lengthen a little bit more. And in that pose I just showed you, caterpillar, you're not using gravity so much as you are right now. But they're the same pose, they get the same length. So rather than create over dizziness if you have low blood pressure, then come down. Some people just don't like being upside down either. So if that's you, that's your modification. And then feel the feet, just allow the feet to be evenly contacting the floor. And then just notice the body. Just notice those feelings, those sensations. Allowing the body to release deeper as it feels like it can. Really, there's no right or wrong shape right now. But the only thing that I'd like you to look out for is pain. So sometimes in a forward fold, we might get pain in the front of the hip. And that's not nice pain, that's stuff running into stuff. So if that's you, then you just lift a little further back out of it so you have less flexion at the hip. And the whole while we're breathing here. We've got about another 15 seconds in this forward fold. And then release the hands to the floor. Slowly walk your hands a little further forward. Take your time. Bring the left knee to the floor and the right foot forward. So from here, we're just going to do a couple of simple lunges to start getting to now further down the chain into the hip flexors. So take the left leg behind you
And keep the torso over your right leg to begin with. And so your fingers can be on the floor, your hands can be flat on the floor, your hands can be on blocks or books. And just allow yourself to settle. If you're getting pain in the front of the right hip now, already bring your right foot out to the side. If that feels okay for you, then just allow the head to drop. And so we're just using gravity, the weight of the body, to access a little length in the connective tissue in the front of the thigh and in the front of the hip. So this is safe and okay because it's slow and controlled. If I was to do this stretch really quickly and go super deep really quickly, then I might pull too much on the ligaments and tendons too quickly. And this gives them time and allows a safe lengthening of the tissue. Again, you might feel your body responding. If you don't, maybe close your eyes and focus on the breath. Starting to tune in and to learn how the body responds to these different movement patterns. Just bring the right hand on the inside of the right foot. Stay where you are. Move the right foot out to the side and the hands back to the center. Now just bring your right hand to your right knee and you're just going to push your right knee away from you and open the chest up to the right. So I'm turning away from you, so I'm just going to turn around so you can see it on the other side. You stay where you are. So I'm just getting now a little more into this side, into the inner thigh, into those hamstrings particularly. I find in my body my inner hamstring gets really tight and congested, and this is really nice to get there. I'm still allowing this left hip flexor to create more space. I am taking some load in my left shoulder, so if that becomes uncomfortable, then feel free to bring the elbow down to a block, the floor, or some cushions. Just do what feels right. And allow your body to be still. Allow the breath to move freely around the body. And we'll be here for about another 30 seconds. And then from there, bringing that right foot back. Slowly take that right leg back and take a few cat-cows or movements, or do whatever feels good in your body before you come to the other side. So then when you're ready, left foot forward. We start with left knee stacked right on top of left ankle. Then we tuck under the back toes and take the back knee back a little bit, just until the body says stop. So I noticed I went beyond my range there, so I'm just going to come back a little bit. You know when you go beyond your range because your body goes, whoop, okay, it's called a reflex, and that reflex will be protecting the muscle from overstretching. So just taking a few moments to soften and settle. I find these poses quite interesting to teach us how much tension we're holding from right to left and how that reflects our ability to be even in our pedal stroke from right to left. So if you're holding muscular tension in one side, the likelihood is as you push your pedals, there will be less power through the side that has more tension, and more power despite the fact that the other side is likely to be a little bit less strong. There'll be more power through that side because of flexibility. So of course we're looking for even balance from right to left for the most efficient and effective pedal stroke. And so you might notice, oh yeah, you know what, my right side feels way tighter. In that case, you just spend some more time on that right side. Or you do right, then left, then right again. Maybe close your eyes here. And as you close your eyes, noticing if you can feel this soft and subtle, glidey movement underneath the skin. Maybe you feel your body accepting the space. And please, if you don't feel anything right now, don't worry about it. It really takes time to tune in. And I think it takes more time if we are used to putting sensations in our body to one side, because that will help us benefit in the sport that we're in. So bring your left hand into the center, move your left leg out to the side, and then just bring your left hand on your left knee. So I'm not going into the deepest variation that I can do in this pose, because that's not what it's about. The only reason I might come to my elbow is if it's really hurting my wrist or my shoulder right now. But apart from that, I'm going to stay on my hand so that I can just access a little more space a little more slowly. And I'm breathing. So a little bit less relevant to our sport, but I would always recommend a yin practice post-workout, post-ride, to be able to get effective power. We want to have a little bit of tension in that muscle. And what we're doing here is really putting as much length in the muscle as we can to create some space in the body. And that will recoil back. It won't mean that all of a sudden we'll be super ragdolls. It will recoil back because we have strength in our muscles. But what we're trying to do is create an even balance between strength, mobility, and length. Slowly come back to the center and take your time. You're just going to find your way whenever you're ready into a down dog. And this time in that down dog, you're just going to gently walk out the dog. So just bend alternate knees. Nice. And then come to stillness in your downward facing dog. Relax your head, take a breath. Slowly draw the knees to the floor. And then from here we're going to come over onto our backs. And we're going to take 3 poses to finish off the practice lying on our back. So when you're ready, you're going to come down and lie head at one end, feet at the other end. So we're going to start with banana, really nice to get into the side body. So you're just lying straight on the mat. Move your left foot right over past the left side of the mat. And then the right foot hooks on top of the left leg. Then lift your right arm up to the sky, in fact both arms up to the sky. And then lift up your shoulders and just ease them over also to the left side of the mat. So then grab your right wrist with your left hand just to hold it in place. So in banana, we're opening up all of the muscles and the connective tissue that lies along the side, the lateral line of the body, the side of the body. So many muscles that we use repetitively connect into this line.
And there's a very kind of well-known piece of fascia in the outer side of the leg called the iliotibial band. We're accessing here the muscles that are attached to that also. So we're getting into not only the outer side of the hips and the legs, but into the outer side of the torso, right up into the armpit. And just allow the body to soften and settle here. Notice if you've been here for a short time, you might still be activating muscles to be here. See if you can allow those muscles to soften and let go. And then for the next minute, breathing into the right hand side of your body. So just feeding the breath into that space that's being stretched. And then exhaling, softening and letting go. So we'll continue that. And so from here, we're going to be here for about another 5 more rounds of breath. Noticing if that focus dissipates, and bring it back to your body, your breath. Feeding that breath into the right side of the body. Noticing now, having been here for a while, maybe there's spaces that feel a little less constricted, a little less tight. And then from here, bring your hands back by your side. Walk your feet into the center. And we're going to go straight to the other side. So right leg right over to the right. Left leg crosses over it. Hands both into the sky, lift up your shoulders, take them over to the right, and then grab your left wrist. And so as we soften and settle here, just allow the muscles of the thighs, the belly, the hips to soften. So one particular muscle that we're accessing here is called your QL, your quadratus lumborum. And that's a muscle in the side of the waist that round about kind of here. And that muscle is a lateral flexor. So it laterally side bends the spine and then brings it back to center. So as a cyclist, we often, due to the repetitive nature of our sport, tire out muscles. So that QL muscle will also try and do the work of the glute med. So the glute med is your key stabilizer muscle of the pelvis to keep the pelvis nice and stable as we move the bones of the legs, or the legs, and they move repetitively in that circular motion. And if we spend elongated periods of time, or if those glutes become a little weak due to our lifestyle, maybe we spend a lot of our days seated at a desk, maybe we don't do so much strengthening work into that space, and then the QL will take over, and it's a smaller muscle group, and it's really supposed to be aiding the movement pattern rather than doing it itself. So it will try and stabilize your pelvis for you, and then it will get congested and tight. We often, not only do we not spend much time lengthening it, but we also don't spend much time strengthening it. So in my practice for cyclists, I like to spend a bit of time in side planks, spend a bit of time building the strength in the muscles in the side body. And so we're going to stay here for about another 5 or 6 rounds of breath, noticing the muscles that are still engaged, trying to let them go, and drawing that breath into the side body. Feeling that sense of length as you inhale and allowing the body to soften as you exhale. And then from here, slowly bring your arms back to your side, bring your shoulders and head back to the center of the mat, and then bring the legs back into the center of the mat. Just give the body a moment to soften and settle in, back into its neutral space. And then we're either going to use a block, a blanket, or your yoga mat, and I'm going to use my yoga mat for this. I'm just going to reach up to the end of my mat and roll my mat towards me. So I'm just rolling over. If you don't have a yoga mat, you just need a cushion or a pillow or something. And I'm going to roll this mat until it comes to the back of my pelvis. So it's simply just lifting my pelvis up a little bit. I'm then going to extend my legs. So you'll feel that now I've got an opening through the front of my pelvis that has been exaggerated by the raising of the pelvis. So make sure that this doesn't hurt your lower back, and if it does, perhaps you might want to keep it lifted but bend the knees a little bit, or maybe just readjust the block, the bolster, whatever you have underneath you. So the key is we're not trying to lift this too high, so we're not trying to build up a deep back bend. We just want to allow these muscles in the front of the hips to release, to allow the connective tissue to release. So elbows out to the sides, hands towards the back of the room. If the fingertips aren't on the floor, just bring the elbows down towards your torso until those fingertips rest on the floor, and then close the eyes. So this is the last pose before we go into Shavasana. And allowing the body to completely be supported. And then feeling the space in the front of the belly, the front of the hips, and breathing into that space. Nice deep breaths into the body. Nice deep breaths out of the body. So today we're going to hold here for about another minute, but you can hold here in this last pose if you have time for a little longer. Allowing the pelvis to feel heavy and to feel like it's grounding down towards the earth. Allowing the front of those hips to feel soft, feel relaxed. To allow that psoas muscle, which is one of the key hip flexors, just to relax. Our psoas muscle is the only muscle in the body that connects to 3 different segments of the structure of the skeleton. It connects to the thigh, the pelvis, and the vertebrae in the lower back. It's a really long, thin muscle. When we spend elongated periods of our day riding a bike or sitting at a desk, it gets shortened. And so then when we try and bring it to full range of movement again,
as we push the pedal towards the floor, it's a little bit too tight, so therefore it pulls on the structure, just pulling out of alignment a bit. So we're just reminding the fascia, the tissue, that it's okay here to have a bit of length. So you might notice that you don't just feel this in the front of the hips, you might feel it in the lower back, particularly in the space of the lower back quite close to the vertebrae. And that could just be that's where that psoas is feeling a bit of tension. It's just the insertion into those vertebrae in the lower back. If you get any kind of compressive, nervy sensations, you don't want that. So that's your cue to bend your knees. So from here we'll make a transition to Shavasana. Just bring the arms back towards the hips. Slowly draw the knees back towards the chest. Press the feet into the floor, lift the hips. Take whatever's supporting you out of the way. And then either with your knees bent, your feet on the floor, your hands on your belly, or with your legs extended, the palms facing up, Shavasana. Now, as an active person also, I find this type of practice, and then this pose in particular, pretty challenging to let go into. Now, the objective of this practice is that we've just done it as we've come off a bike session. So we've had that fire and that energy that we need to be able to then focus on the calmer stuff. So make the most of that. This is where the recovery happens. This is where the muscles get the fuel to renew, to get stronger. Without this, we just get to a point where we break. So I'm going to leave you in silence with your body, your breath, just focusing on watching the breath come and go into the body for about 90 seconds. And before you bring any movement back into your physical body, just take a moment to feel. Feel this sensation of stillness, of release and letting go. And slowly wake up the fingers and the toes, walk the knees in towards the chest. Take a little rock from side to side. When you're ready, you can rock yourself over to one side or up to seated. Come to seat in a comfortable position. Doesn't have to be with your legs crossed, palms face down on your thighs. And take a deep breath in. And as you exhale, bow the head, palms together in the heart space. Namaste. Thank you for taking time to practice with me. Any questions or comments you might have, please feel free to pop them into the comment section. I do look at those, I will get back to you. Feel free to send me a message on social media or tune into my website and contact me that way. This is Core Yoga with Sam. Namaste.